The auditorium buzzed with excitement as proud families filled the rows, holding bouquets and camera phones. I stood near the back, smoothing down the wrinkles in my dress, the only formal one I owned. It wasn't new, but I had saved for months to buy it just for this day. The heels pinched slightly. My hands trembled. I was Carolyn Blake, 65 years old, a housekeeper by day, a diner waitress by night, and a receptionist on weekends. For nearly 3 decades, I had held on to one dream: to see my son Nathan walk across that graduation stage in a white coat. Today, that dream was about to come true. When Nathan was 5, his father left us with nothing but unpaid bills and a shattered sense of security. I remember that first night alone at the kitchen table, bills stacked like a barricade. That night, I made a silent promise: Nathan would never go without the opportunities I was denied. So I worked, and worked, scrubbing floors at dawn, answering phones at noon, pouring coffee past midnight. Some nights I barely slept. Some days I thought I'd break. But every report card, every smile from Nathan made it worth it. He wanted to be a doctor. And now, here we were. As the ceremony began and names were called, I searched through the sea of identical gowns for my son. My heart lifted when I spotted him, standing tall and radiant. It was as if time folded my little boy, who once used to play doctor with cotton balls, was now a man with real patience ahead of him. I didn't need applause. I didn't need a spotlight. I only wanted to see him succeed. I just never expected what came next. After the ceremony ended, the crowd poured into the reception hall. Balloons floated above polished floors, and camera shutters clicked like applause. I navigated through families embracing and posing, my eyes fixed on one figure: Nathan. He stood at the center of a well-dressed circle, laughing in his tailored gown. Just behind him was a woman in a sleek navy dress, probably in her 40s, with flawless makeup and diamond earrings that shimmered under the lights. I waved gently. Nathan caught my eye and smiled, but not the way he used to. It was quick, polite, almost reluctant. Still, I moved closer. I was ready to hug him, tell him how proud I was. I had rehearsed the words in my mind all morning. "Nathan," I whispered, arms slightly open. He shifted a step back, just enough to create space between us. "Mom, hey, you made it." Something in his tone stung. He sounded like someone greeting an old classmate, not his mother. Before I could process it, the elegant woman stepped in, resting a hand on his arm. "Darling, are you going to introduce me?" Nathan beamed. "Everyone, this is Miranda, the woman who's made everything possible for me, my mother." My world stopped. My breath caught, but no sound came out. For a moment, the chatter around us faded, drowned out by a quiet ringing in my ears. My legs felt rooted to the polished floor. His friends murmured warm compliments to Miranda. One young man turned to me. "And you are?" Nathan glanced over almost casually. "This is Carolyn. She's a family friend. She's been supportive." Supportive? 28 years of washing dishes, running from one job to the next, stretching every penny, and I was now a family friend. I nodded slightly, numb, but something inside me cracked. Then it shifted. I hadn't come this far to be rewritten out of my own story. So I took a breath, not a deep one, not dramatic, just enough to steady myself. "Actually," I said. The word was soft, but it cut through the noise. Heads turned. Conversation stopped. "Actually," I repeated, my voice firmer. "I'm Nathan's mother, his real mother." For a moment, no one spoke. Miranda's hand dropped from Nathan's arm. The smile on her perfectly lined lips faltered, just slightly, but enough. Nathan's jaw tightened. "Carolyn," he said quietly through gritted teeth, "maybe we should talk about this somewhere else?" "I think we're long past privacy," I replied. My voice didn't shake. I didn't yell, but I made sure every word landed where it needed to. I turned to the group, my back straight, my heart racing. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone. I'm here because I raised Nathan. From the moment he took his first breath until the day he got into medical school, I was there. I worked 3 jobs. I missed birthdays. I skipped meals. I gave up everything so he could have this life." I looked at Nathan. "Do you remember when you were 9 you drew this?" I reached into my worn purse and unfolded a crumpled, faded piece of paper. On it, a child's drawing, a stick figure in a white coat, smiling, arms wide open. Above it, in crooked handwriting, "When I'm a doctor, I'll buy my mom a big house so she doesn't have to work anymore." Nathan stared at the paper, speechless. I kept this in my wallet for 19 years. On nights when my back ached and my hands were raw from cleaning, this reminded me why I kept going. The silence was deafening now. Even the air in the room seemed to pause. Miranda cleared her throat. Nathan's been living with his father and me since he was 17, she said. We've supported him through college and med school. I looked at her. Supported him. With what? The money I sent every month. The student loans still in my name. Miranda blinked. Nathan looked down. Mom, please. I'm not angry you found help. I'm grateful they were kind to you. But what I can't accept is being erased. I sat through every doctor's appointment. I stitched your Halloween costumes. I stayed up all night teaching you algebra, even when I had to be at work by 6. I turned back to the others. I'm not here for applause. I'm not here for credit. I just refuse to be invisible. A young woman in the group stepped forward and gently touched my arm. Thank you, she whispered. To Nathan's eyes filled with tears, he took a step toward me. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't think. No, you didn't, I said softly. But now you have to. Why did you call her your mother? He looked at me, and what he said next, I will never forget. Because I was ashamed. Of me. Nathan didn't answer right away. He looked down at the floor, as if searching for words somewhere near his polished shoes. Not of you, he finally said. Of where I came from, of our tiny apartment, the second-hand clothes, your 3 jobs. Of the way people looked at me when I said you were a housekeeper. He glanced at his group of friends, polished, confident, wealthy. Their parents were surgeons, CEOs, Ivy League alumni. I wanted to belong, he said. So you borrowed someone else's mother? The words came out before I could stop them. They weren't angry, just stunned. Nathan swallowed hard. Miranda and Richard, her husband, took me in when Dad reappeared. They introduced me to their world. It was easier to fit in if I didn't talk about our life. The words cut, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. I saw in his eyes the same insecurity I'd seen in him as a boy who never brought friends home, who kept his birthday parties small. I understand wanting to be someone else, Nathan. There were days I wanted that too. But do you know what kept me going? He shook his head. Being your mother, that was the one thing I never, ever wanted to change. There was a pause, a quiet reckoning. Then a voice from the side, I'm James, one of Nathan's roommates. A young man stepped forward, offering his hand. I shook it, confused. Nathan's told me all about you. He never stopped. Late at night, when we were cramming for exams, he'd talk about how you kept going, how you never let him give up. I looked at Nathan. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. Then why this? Why pretend? Before he could answer, a man in an expensive suit walked over, arm around Miranda's waist. There's my graduate, he said proudly, clapping Nathan on the back. Already spoken to Dr. Carlisle about a residency spot. He noticed me, extended a hand. You must be one of Nathan's professors. Before I could speak, Miranda gently touched his arm. Richard, this is Carolyn, Nathan's mother. Richard's smile faded. But I thought. Well, it's complicated, Miranda said quickly. Richard turned to Nathan. Son, what's going on? Nathan finally looked up, his face unreadable, but his voice low, steady. There's something I need to tell you, Richard, something I never told you, or Miranda. The air shifted again. Whatever it was, I could feel it. This wasn't just about embarrassment or identity anymore. It was something deeper. And I wasn't sure I was ready for what would come next. For Richard crossed his arms, watching Nathan closely. Miranda stood still beside him, her expression unreadable. Nathan took a shaky breath. 8 years ago, when my father Derek reached out to you, he didn't do it out of love. He did it because he needed money. Miranda blinked. Richard frowned. That's not what he told us, Richard said. He said you and your mother were struggling, that you needed support to finish high school and apply to college. That part was true, Nathan admitted. But what you didn't know is that before he came to you, he came to our apartment first and asked my mom for $10,000. Every eye turned to me. I nodded slowly, confirming it. He showed up out of nowhere, I said. After disappearing for over a decade, he wanted money. I didn't have it. I was still living paycheck to paycheck. When I refused, he left in a rage. The next day, he contacted Nathan directly. Richard's jaw tightened. "He made me a deal," Nathan said. "He said he could connect me to successful people like you who could help me get into med school. But in return, I had to help him, get money, use whatever relationships I formed to his advantage." Miranda gasped. "You're saying Derek used you to manipulate us?" Nathan nodded miserably. "At first, he just wanted a college fund he could tap into. But it got worse. Textbooks, rent, medical supplies, he'd pressure me to ask for more. I gave him some of the money. Not all. I was trying to protect both sides, but I was stuck in the middle." Richard's lawyer instincts kicked in. "Did your mother know about any of this?" Nathan shook his head. "I was too ashamed. She protected me from him for so long. I didn't want her to know I'd let him back into my life." I reached for Nathan's arm. My heart ached, not just for the betrayal but for the weight he had carried alone. "Why didn't you come to us?" Miranda asked. "Because by the time I realized how wrong it was, I was in too deep," Nathan said. Then I started to enjoy it, the comfort, the ease, the illusion of belonging." He turned to me again, eyes brimming. "And in doing that, I started to resent you. Not because of anything you did, but because you reminded me of what I came from, of what I was trying to run from." I didn't speak, not yet, because I saw the boy beneath the man, and for the first time I understood. But just as we began to exhale, the doorbell rang. The housekeeper peeked in. "Mr. Mitchell, there's a man here insisting on speaking with you. He says he's Nathan's father." My chest tightened. Derek had arrived. The sunroom fell silent. Richard stood first, his face unreadable. "Show him in," he said quietly. "It's time we all met the man behind this." A moment later, Derek Blake stepped into the room. Time had not been kind. His once handsome face looked worn, his expensive suit wrinkled and stained, but the smugness in his eyes remained. He moved like someone who still believed the room owed him something. "Richard," Miranda, Derek said, his voice smooth. "Sorry to barge in, but when I heard my son..." He stopped cold when he saw me. "Holly, what are you doing here?" "She's here because she's Nathan's mother," Richard said, his tone now clipped. "His real mother. The one who raised him." Derek's expression darkened. "So he's been talking, but I doubt he told you the whole truth." "Enough," I said. "No more lies." He laughed. "You always did like to play the martyr, Holly, but maybe it's time they hear why I really left." His gaze swept the room, daring me. "Tell them, Holly. Tell them how you cheated on me with my best friend." That's why I walked out. My stomach twisted. Nathan turned toward me, confused. "Mom, is that true?" I swallowed hard. Yes and no. The room froze. Derek had left us, emptied our bank account, and disappeared for 3 months. I thought he was gone for good. I met Thomas during that time. He was kind, gentle. He helped us when we had nothing. "We weren't divorced," Derek said sharply. "No," I replied. "You were just absent. No calls, no money, no clue whether you were alive. When you finally returned and found out about Thomas, you didn't want me back, you just wanted control. You threatened to take Nathan from me, said no judge would grant custody to a woman who had strayed. So I ended it. I chose my son. And you walked out again anyway." Nathan stared at me. "You gave up love for me?" I nodded, my voice quiet. "I would have given up anything for you. I did." Derek's charm cracked. Miranda looked at him with disgust. Richard crossed his arms. "I think it's time for you to leave," Richard said calmly. "Or what?" Derek sneered. "Or I call the police," Richard replied. "Financial fraud's a serious charge and we've got the receipts." Derek hesitated. Then he turned to Nathan. "You'll regret this, son. Choosing them over your own blood." Nathan didn't flinch. "The only thing I regret is not seeing you clearly sooner." Derek's glare burned, but he left without another word. The door slammed. And suddenly, the room felt lighter. The silence that followed Derek's departure was heavy but not painful. It was a silence filled with clarity. Like a storm had finally passed and left something behind, not wreckage, but truth. Richard was the first to speak. Well, that was illuminating. Nathan sat back down, rubbing his hands together nervously. "I'm so sorry," he said, looking between Richard and Miranda. I should have told you all this a long time ago. I was just ashamed, scared. So Miranda moved to sit beside him, her voice soft but firm. We were all deceived, Nathan, and while I wish you'd been honest from the start, I understand why it was hard. She turned to me. Carolyn, I owe you an apology too. I never meant to replace you. I just wanted to help your son succeed. I didn't know I was standing in your place. I nodded. You've been kind to him, I said quietly, and that's what mattered to me most. Richard leaned forward. We still want to support your career, Nathan, but from now on everything must be above board. No more lies, no more secrets, and no more hiding your mother. Miranda added, firmly. Carolyn is an extraordinary woman, and she deserves to be recognized for everything she's done. Nathan's eyes filled. He reached for my hand. Mom, can you ever forgive me? I already have, I said. But forgiveness isn't the end. It's just the beginning. We've got work to do rebuilding what your father tried to destroy. That night, over dinner, we didn't talk about titles or scholarships or mistakes. We talked about healing. For the first time in years, we weren't split between worlds. We were a family flawed, maybe but real. And that, in itself, felt like a kind of justice. Not loud, not showy. Just honest. 3 months later, I stood in the lobby of Riverside Community Hospital, adjusting the collar of my blouse as I looked toward the glass doors. I had taken Miranda's offer. She ran a foundation that coordinated medical volunteer programs in underserved communities. At first, I had hesitated. I didn't have a degree, no formal training. But she had looked me straight in the eye and said, "You raised a doctor while working 3 jobs. That's more experience than most people can ever claim." And she meant it. Today was the opening of a new clinic we had organized, staffed by volunteers, funded by donors, built for people like the woman I used to be, exhausted, invisible, doing her best with too little. The door swung open. Nathan walked in, white coat on, his name embroidered on the chest. Dr. Nathan Blake? He had chosen to use my last name professionally. When he told me, I cried for a long time. Not because I needed the recognition, but because he chose it freely. "Sorry I'm late," he said, wrapping me in a hug. I smiled, just in time. We walked together toward a group at the far end of the room. Miranda, Richard, the hospital board. Cameras flashed as we approached. "There they are," Miranda announced warmly, "mother and son, the powerhouse behind this clinic." Nathan slipped his arm around my shoulder and turned to the group. "This is my mother," he said clearly, "Carolyn Blake. Everything I am today I owe to her." No one questioned it. No one looked away. And in that moment, everything I had once feared being forgotten, replaced, erased, faded. The truth had cost us years of pain, misunderstandings, silence. But it had given us something else too. Freedom. Respect. And a chance to rebuild, not from shame, but from pride. As we stood side by side, I thought of all the times I'd wanted to give up, all the nights I'd fallen asleep in uniform, all the tears I'd swallowed so Nathan wouldn't see. And I realized something. Life doesn't always reward you in the moment. It doesn't hand out medals for every sacrifice. Sometimes it lets you walk through years of shadow before revealing why it was all worth it. But when that moment comes, when the truth is finally spoken, when love is finally seen, it is worth more than any applause. It is everything. So to every parent watching this, every person who gave silently, who stood in the background, don't let anyone rewrite your story. Speak your truth. And never, ever stop showing up for the people you love, even if they forget you for a while. Because one day they might remember, and when they do, the light that returns to your name will be blinding. Like, share, comment if you believe no sacrifice should ever be erased.
My name is Elena Morgan, and on the night of my wedding, only 6